Ready for a digital dive? You're listening to the GZ Chop Shop Podcast, the weekly tech and gaming media podcast that breaks down the latest news, lore, and more. So plug in, because the GZ Chop Shop starts now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop Podcast. I'm your host, Project Tachi, joined by my good friend and co-host, Warners. And as always, we have another amazing episode lined up for you. But before we get to that, huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. And a huge shout out to, once again, to one of our VIPs, Sailor Lion. Thank you so much for being a Patreon subscriber. Also, if you guys want to support the show and get exclusive content, think about checking our Patreon page, patreon.com/OSN Media. Or if you are feeling like representing the show, you can check out some of our merch at our store, osnmediashop.com. Tons of merchandise has been added to the shop. Like, holy cow. It's pretty insane. It's constantly changing now. Like, you guys need to go and grab some of that stuff before it's gone. I promise you, there's something for everyone. You will not be disappointed. In fact, we just started adding some canvas prints, anime-inspired canvas prints. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go check it out, osnmediashop.com. Go grab yourself some amazing merchandise. Now, picking up where we left off last week, we actually got a little segued, but it's perfect because there's something else I want to talk about in regards to Sony, the PlayStation, and a project they're working on, and it's Project Q. So for those who don't know, Sony a couple weeks ago announced that they are getting back into the handheld market, kind of. They're not on the same level as the Nintendo Switch and the Game Boy era, and they're not releasing a Vita. What they're basically releasing is what I would call a companion to the PS5, which is basically a handheld, codenamed Project Q right now. It is a handheld streaming device that is basically going to be a companion to your PS5. As far as I know, you can't download games directly to it, which is why I say it's not going to be a Vita where you could go out to the store, buy games for it. We've all pretty much agreed we're getting out of the era of physical copy games, and we're entering the digital era. And it seems like what they're going for is more of a convenience handheld than actually trying to shoulder back into the market that Nintendo pretty much owns. Nintendo pretty much owns the handheld market. But Sony is just saying, we just want a small slither of the pie, because people did love the Vita. And what a lot of people learned years later is the Vita was actually more advanced in terms of specs than the Switch. Technologically speaking, the Vita is more advanced. But Sony poorly handled it, which is why it pretty much died. It had so much potential. And I know, at least in the Japan market, the Vita was doing really, really well because they were getting tons and tons of games. But it seems like, I don't know, maybe the US didn't want to pay for a lot of those imports. So we weren't getting like half the games that were actually available on the Vita. So we missed out on that. So, of course, for the Western audience, the Vita pretty much just died. And I think Sony just doesn't want a repeat of that. So they've created their version of what I want to say is the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck operates pretty much the same way. You got games on your PC, you use your Steam Deck to remotely play those games. And sorry, Warner, are you okay?
I'm so sorry. I turned my volume down because I had to sneeze, and I'm really sore. And my stomach contracted.
It was so...
And I cramped up.
It was so hard trying to keep it going because of the facial expressions you were making.
I was trying to like just be a man, you know, like, and I couldn't. It's so painful. I had to turn the volume down.
I mean, it looked like you were dying over there, and I was just
you've never had like a cramp, like
yeah,
from ab workouts and just working out.
Yeah, It was just your face that you were making. And I was just like...
You imagine if I had stayed muted and you just saw me fall down and not get up.
It's like, do I just keep going or
just keep going?
But yeah, anywho. So Sony's basically releasing this handheld that you have to have the game downloaded on your PS5, and then you basically need to have good internet. And it's going to stream the game from your PS5 to this handheld device. Now, I'm sure some people are thinking, well, that's pointless. That's stupid. I think they're basing it off of how many purchases of Backbone. I don't know if you know what the Backbone is. The Backbone was basically an attachment that Sony did allow license. It came from like a private company, and they created controllers for your phone. You would slot your phone into it, and then you could play your mobile game or whatever with a controller. Well, I guess Sony had cut a deal with them to have officially licensed PlayStation backbones made. And you slot your phone into it, and using the PlayStation app, remote play, you were able to play your PlayStation games on the go. And it was convenient. It's like, oh, I'll play my PlayStation games on my phone. And they actually must have sold pretty well, because when I was curious, they weren't exactly cheap either. They were it's like $100 for this thing. But when I went to see, they usually were sold out. So I was like, okay, I guess they sell better than I thought. And maybe Sony was like, wait a minute, why are we splitting the profit with these guys when we could do that and keep it all ourselves? So it seems like they decided to step back into the handheld because it's apparently there's still a market for it, and maybe people have always wanted a Vita too. We never got another Vita. We got the one, and then that was it. We got PSP, we got Vita, and then it stopped. And at first I thought, oh man, this is not going to be as good as I thought. Like, first of all, you need good internet. So it's going to be totally useless to people who are away from internet. And when am I ever going to use this thing? But then I thought about it and I said, wait a minute, hold on. That's actually not bad. Because even at home, I can think of a legitimate reason to have one. There's so many times I want to play my PlayStation, but I don't want to go downstairs. And I don't want to stay downstairs. Like, I want to be in the comfort of my room, laid up in my bed, and be able to just play my PlayStation. And this will allow me to do that. Or if I want to sit on my back porch but play my PlayStation, I can do that. Or if I go to hang out with my friends and, there's like a lull in the day and they've got internet, I can use their internet to play my PlayStation. Or in a way, you can kind of bring back the feel of LAN parties with this without actually having to have a LAN party. Like, you get together with like think about it. You and I, we could be hanging out, and I come to hang out with you, and you're like, hey dude, let's play, Call of Duty, but we want to play online. And I bring my Project Q over, connect to your internet to connect to my PlayStation on the other coast to access my Call of Duty so that we can still play online, but be hanging out. Like, it has its purposes. It has some decent uses to it. That I think they figured out. And I didn't realize until after they announced it, like, how useful it actually could be. So I got to say, I'm kind of interested in it. I probably will get one. Just for convenience purposes alone. But like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, where do you think they were aiming when they came out with the Project Q?
It sounds to me that, because this is the first time I'm hearing about this one. I'm always getting the Sony updates from you. It sounds like they're learning from their mistakes. At least maybe their mistakes in the area, the markets where the Vita failed.
Mm-hmm.
more particularly the US market, and they're just capitalizing on those mistakes and coming back with something even better. And I mean that's kind of the cornerstone of every I guess successful, whether it's a console idea, business, marketing, whatever, is coming back and building on something that didn't work out the way you thought it would the first time. And every year, consoles and Game Boys, handheld devices. Growing up, those were things that came out every few years, and now we're getting a new version or a subtype or a new thing not like every 6 months to a year. We're getting something else that's being developed, and I think it's really awesome that we have these companies, whether it's Sony, whoever, that are willing and able to put out so many different options for us. And is there going to be any VR to this? Like, is it going to be like a VR compatible thing too?
I don't see it being a VR compatible thing, being that it's meant to be able to be used on the go. VR would defeat the purpose, I think. It seems like they're trying to create, because at some point there's going to be internet everywhere. Like, I know a lot of people are.
Is it going to be like the Switch of PlayStation?
It's going to be
what they're kind of going for.
Yeah,
but they're trying not to make it obvious. Like, what? Because I'm still a little confusion there. Like, a little bit more about this than I do.
So Switch, with the Switch is the console. You can dock it, and then you got your home console, and then you can take it, and you got your entire console with you. It seems like PlayStation wants to do that in their own way. So they're basically just saying, hey, instead of using your phone and killing your phone battery, and you can't take your PlayStation everywhere with you, why not just have a device that lets you stream your library to wherever you are on the go? So basically, I don't know if you've ever used it. Well, you just got yourself a PS5. If you ever get the chance, download the remote PlayStation Remote Play on your computer, and try it. It's actually convenient because I've played my PlayStation through my computer. It's basically the same thing, but they've created a handheld device for it, exclusively for that purpose.
Does what's it called? The PlayStation?
It's just called Project Q right now.
No, when you share the game to your computer.
Oh, PlayStation Remote Play.
Does it look just as good? I mean, certainly it's a little.
It looks good. Like before, in the PS3 era, it was near impossible. Like the internet could never handle it. But when I was playing my PlayStation for Twitch streams, that's how I was doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So it looks almost just as good.
It looks almost just as good.
I couldn't tell. I mean, Twitch all streaming services unless you're a paid professional on those services, like they all downgrade the graphics a little bit and stuff anyways. But I mean, I couldn't tell. So that's pretty cool. Do you know how big is it going to be? Did they say?
Like in actual dimensions,
like Vita size? I didn't have a Vita, but I know what it looks like and how
it's going to be bigger than the Vita. If you look at the article, and they have I guess you could say, the scale of size in their tweet. It's a pretty wide boy, and I think it's meant to give you a lot more screen than anything else. So it's a decent sized screen. Probably, I want to say it's like the same size, if not a little wider than the Switch.
Now, I'm assuming you can just download the games to the device and take it. It's not like
no.
Like back in the day when your PlayStation had to be on.
So that's the thing. You cannot download the games to the device. The games have to be downloaded to your PS5. That's the thing. But the
PlayStation 5 can be off, and you can still access the game from the from the device?
That's the thing I don't know. Like, I'm wondering if it's gonna just know, like, the device will just know what's in your library and then let you access the game. But if you have to have the game downloaded on your PS5, I'm assuming it's going to remotely turn it on, and then you control your I think it's just a extended PS5 controller. Like, you're just like, yeah, I want to play my PS5. You use this device to control your PS5 via the internet and play that way.
Like they'd both be synced and hooked. Like,
yeah, I think it's just going to be like
they'd both be like connected to the PlayStation Network account you have. I'm guessing that's how it would work.
Yeah.
And it'd probably go from there. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah. Because the only thing that confuses me, because they don't have a release date, and it's, you know, since it's still just called Project Q, there's not a lot of details available about it, other than, hey, it's in production, it'll eventually come out. And along they're going to release some headsets that kind of look like the AirPods, that apparently are supposed to go along with Project Q, but you can also use them with your PS5. It seems like they're just trying to go with, I gotta say, Sony is going all in on the PS5. Like, they're releasing a lot of accessories for this console. Like,
I mean, after testing that VR2, even for the price, the accessories are well worth it. I mean, they're pretty damn cool, man.
Yeah, Sony,
and unlike anything else I've messed with, and I don't have some of these accessories, but I, like, through other people I know that have a PS5, I've used them and tried them out, and some of them are pricey, but they're quality, man. They're freaking awesome.
Yeah, Sony leaning into this is they know what their gamers want, and they know what they want to do. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, I went through the entire PS3 era. I got a PS3 like a month after it came out. I went through its whole lifetime. They didn't put that much stuff out for the PS3. They had a couple of accessories. Some of the stuff was just really out there that it was just like, you really just had to be a collector, just wanted it for the sake of wanting it, but no actual functionality. I went through the entire PS4 lifetime from day one. I remember when I walked into the store, got the last one, thought I was going to get jumped on the way home.
It's always a good feeling when you get the last of something.
Bro, it was bad.
Oh, shit.
And I didn't have a car, so I was on public transportation. I was taking the trolley home, and everyone was eyeballing me.
In Philly, right? Were you in Philly?
No, I was in San Diego, because I was stationed in San Diego at that time. I was like, yo, I'm about to get jumped for this PS4, bro. And I went through the entire PS4 line. I stayed up to date with like a lot of their stuff that they had. And even then, they didn't release a ton of accessories. I think their biggest advancement at the time was they started fine-tuning remote play to work with the Vita. And even then, it was still pretty choppy. You know, the internet still couldn't handle it. But with the PS5, they're really leaning into it. Like the PS4, yeah, they dropped the VR. That was it. The PS3 had the PlayStation Move. That was which was the step up to the PS4's PlayStation VR, which was decent, but not the best at the time. And Sony basically has been learning over the years with this, and then they just leaned all in with the PS5. You now have got the dual edge controller. You've got the Project Q on the horizon. You've got the PlayStation VR 2, which has jumped to being one of the best on the line. And even though it's expensive, it's still one of the more affordable ones. Like if you're a casual VR user, then the Meta Quest 2 is actually more affordable and still good quality and can be used with your PC. All the other VR headsets are like $1,000 for high quality. So the PS VR 2 falls in for what it delivers still as one of the more affordable ones. And then they're coming out with their headphones, you know, and they had the headset. They got another headset on the, you know, that they released. They're really leaning in with their accessories to expand upon the PlayStation PS5 ecosystem for its lifetime. It just makes me wonder, like, what else are they planning? to drop.
Now y'all don't make fun of me because I'm new to besides the Switch, I'm new to like the consoles the first time in a long time since I've been on gaming PC for so long. The Wii the Wii U had that sensor, right, where it could sense your movement.
The one that's
and I
like
think
on your TV.
Yeah, and the Xbox had one called, what was it? The Kinect?
Yep,
Is that what
the
it was
Kinect.
called? What was the PlayStation's called?
PlayStation camera.
It's just PlayStation
Yeah, it was
camera.
the
They're like,
PlayStation
no
camera.
fancy name here, just PlayStation camera. Are they still coming out with games that utilize that?
I mean, now that they have the VR2,
I haven't heard a lot about them in a long time. So
now that they have the VR2, yeah, like on the PS4, I have the original PlayStation VR. The camera really served two purposes then. Like the PlayStation, when the PS Move came out, I think the PlayStation Move did have a camera. They tried to implement it, but that was still too new. Like gamers were like, what's the point of this? We weren't really using it. We barely used the 6-axis function on the controller. Like we just sit down and play a game. And now the PlayStation camera came out for the VR, and that was its main purpose. Unless you streamed to Twitch or something, then the camera was your camera. You know, that's how people saw your face when you were streaming. So it served like two purposes. But they didn't really release games that exclusively used the camera.
yeah, because I think really it was a lot of it was Fruit Ninja was real big back several years ago, and then all the dancing games. Those were like a huge step up from Dance Dance Revolution back when you had the pads.
Yeah.
So I think that's what a lot of those sensors were really just kind of used for games like that, and then like the on console or like family games like bowling and stuff. So I was just curious, like if those were still things that like PlayStation was still using.
I think the camera now exclusive like it's still like a dual purpose. Like I think you could use with the VR2 if you're streaming, you can use it as your webcam for your live streams. But it's mainly
no
for
games
VR.
are really like utilizing them like they were back even a few years ago.
And to in the PS4 era, I don't have one now, so I don't know until I get one. But you could command your PlayStation with voice command. And I know for the PS4 you could do that. You hit L2 and you could tell your PlayStation to open certain games or do certain things. That was a feature I even forgot about because it really was like, why do I need to tell it to open a game if it's literally like right there? I didn't really use the voice feature that much because you have your controller in your hand. I think that was for more like if you're using your PlayStation for like media stuff, then it's more convenient. You could tell like open up my Crunchyroll app
so those sensors for games kind of serve their purpose for a small period of time, but ultimately VR is kind of just
is really its focus. Yeah.
Because I imagine we're going to be at a point like for people that do like the dancing games and I guess the motion active games.
Are there
VR
still dancing games
ultimately
though? Like, do they even make them anymore outside of
the
main arcade places like Dave and Buster's?
It was it called Dance Dance? Was that the
Dude, that was so long ago.
Yeah, I mean that was like several years ago, but I think that was on the Xbox something.
Yeah, those games like where you had to like buy like you got a whole kit. Like even Guitar Hero doesn't.
No, you can't buy. I mean, if you wanted Guitar Hero now, you'd have to buy the original console specifically for that, which I think's bullshit. By the way, like honestly, that entire genre can make a major comeback if they capitalized off of what you can. Like you can go to a store now, like you can go to Target or Best Buy or whatever, and you can buy basically like an Atari or Sega, and it comes with like 100 games like built in, and then you guys can, it's like a little mini, you know what I'm talking about, and you can just hook it up to TV and you can just play all these games with each other, right? They could do that same thing with some of those old, like more old school, what would now be like you'd see them in arcades like Guitar Hero, and then what was the other one?
Rock Band.
Rock Band, yeah, Rock Band. God damn, it's been a long time. But because I remember we played that back in the Navy, but I mean, hell, that was that was a long time ago. But I feel like those would sell, like if they made like just for that, and you just hook it up to your TV, and it was just that one game. Like the same concept as like the little mini consoles you could buy that had the built-in games, I think. And I only say this because this is I already know everyone's gonna make fun of me. I don't care. This is the lamest, geekiest thing I'm gonna fucking say on this show, probably. Maybe not. But I was stupid good at Dance Dance Revolution for no reason. When I was a teenager, like because I owned the pads. Like I eventually bought the pads, and I was like, this is pretty dope.
Yeah.
And like, like we'd have parties sometimes, and we would just fuck around. It was fun. But I remember like my friend was like, "Why are you so good at this?" And I'm like, I have no life. I don't know. Like I just thought it was really fun. So sometimes when I go to they got these bars now that you can go to. I think here they're called free play, but there's other versions of this throughout the country now, where you can drink and you can play arcade games. And they have like Guitar Hero, Dance Dance Revolution, and then a bunch of like games just from all over the country, or not all over the country, all like from different decades. And it's pretty cool. It's like old school and kind of new school arcade stuff. But I think it'd be cool if they brought some of those more niche, what used to be very popular genres back as like an all-in-one. Like that's just the game. It doesn't go with a console. You plug in and play. I think somebody's missing out on money here. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's just because since times have forced everyone to own their own consoles, those were party games. Like you invited friends over to play that. Nobody does that anymore. Like
everyone had that one friend in their group that just so happened to have every piece of Rock Band.
Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. It was like Rock Band could not thrive today. That's why you don't see new Rock Bands coming out. Guitar Hero, Beat Saber basically took over for that. Beat Saber's fun. I like Beat Saber, but it's because party games.
Imagine seeing someone playing that in VR, but you hear nothing. You just see them, and they're just
unless they're streaming it. Yeah, I mean, if they're streaming it, like
you walk in, you're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, it
would just look funny
with the MetaQuest. If they're not using headphones, you'll hear the music that they're drumming to, and then if they stream it to their phone and let you look on their phone, you can see what they're doing as well. So, but if they're playing headphones with headphones on, then yeah, you just walk in and you just see someone swinging at the air. Just it just looks ridiculous.
You don't think those niche games would do well if those companies were somehow able to sell them as just their own little thing to hook up to a TV?
Well, Beat Saber, that's impossible. You couldn't do that with Beat Saber. Like what would that attachment
like Guitar
be?
Hero, for instance, you don't think they could make a comeback by just being their own thing?
If you mean like Rock Band and
you just hook it up to a TV, like that's just the game. I guess because it would probably die out. Like it wouldn't be something that would consistently make money.
Yeah. The only thing that the attachment that still is niche but still sells well, and I think won't die out is like driving simulators, like the steering wheels. Because I see on Instagram, people they still use those for their games.
There's I don't see it a lot, but sometimes I'll see like a thing of someone like they'll buy the whole fucking like the seat.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know you could still buy those, but I guess those are still
because driving games are they're still popular. There's still purpose in the driving games, and they get more realistic, like Gran Turismo.
I would never play any of you guys in any driving game.
Oh, I've seen people do some crazy stuff.
Oh, let's play some Need for Speed, and we're like, all right, and then like I find out one of y'all has like the whole
seat
contraption seat. Like
I play for keeps.
I'm like, I'm not playing you. Like,
dude, do you think they go watch Fast and Furious and then afterwards they're like, all right, I'm going to go play a driving game?
Don't even get me started on that movie.
And okay, let me put it this way: do you think they watch the first 3 Fast and Furiouses and then go and Everything after that doesn't count.
Everything after that might as well be fucking Harry Potter to me. That's how fantastical that shit was.
It gets super fantastical. But talking in the same vein of talking about movies to make the proper segue, the Flash movie. I've heard. I don't want to say mixed things. I've heard it's good.
Is it out?
It's not. It's not out. These are like pre-screen releases. People get to know that.
I haven't been keeping up with movies that much.
Yeah, I've heard
recently,
but it seems like they're expecting. At first, they were expecting to make like 104 million opening weekend. That was the projection. But because of its star, they have cut that projection in half. They're already expecting it to fail. Also, because it's coming out the same week as I think it's a Disney movie, The Elementals. Is supposed to come out that weekend. So they're already expecting to lose to a family-friendly Disney movie, which I guess is understandable because anyone with family, like anyone who wanted to go see Flash but has family, is probably going to get strong-armed into seeing the Elementals with their kids. Like that's probably half the revenue right there.
Is it the same director? It's not James Gunn, is it?
No. This the director for Flash was this. The Flash was already in development before James Gunn. This is supposed to be. I don't want to say a fresh start, but this was. They basically are saying that after this, the Snyderverse or whatever you want to call it would be done. Everything would be done.
I don't understand why they even did it, considering the issues with that particular actor and the fact they're restarting and all the problems DC continues to have, regardless of how many times they tried different shit.
And you basically just listed the other reasons why they're expected the profit to be less than half.
Then why even make the fucking movie?
Because the movie was already far into development. It was pretty much done. And they were already getting heat for canceling they already canceled a lot of stuff we never saw.
Didn't they cancel
the Batgirl movie was already finished. They canceled it.
They finished that movie and still canceled it, but they
already were pushing promotionals for the Flash. Like it was already out there. And the Hollywood industry doesn't operate like the gaming industry, where gaming industry will give you a game, they'll give you a trailer, they'll give you a release date. And then we're like, all right, where's the game? And they're like, oh yeah, we canceled it. With no problem. They're just like, yeah, we just canceled it. Even though they kind of do that in the gaming world. They really do. Yeah. They're just like, yeah,
either, if they push the game back a couple times, you're still going to get it, but most likely it won't be finished still. That seems to just be a trend in gaming.
What was it, like Tiberium, I think, was a game years ago.
Yeah, I forgot all about that shit.
It was on the cover of Game Pro and everything. This is going to be it. And then they were like, yeah, we canceled it. Like, what?
Yes. They either, if they push it back a few times, it's going to come out eventually. And then it'll take about 3 or 4 years after release for everyone to go, oh, they fixed it. And now it's the game it was supposed to be on release. Mm-hmm. If they don't do that, they'll blindside you with a fucking cancellation for a game that they highly anticipated and everyone was really excited for. But yeah, Hollywood, they're like dead set on like making something back.
Yep. And they didn't promote the Batgirl movie as much as they promoted the Flash movie.
I don't remember any promotions for Batgirl.
Exactly. So it was easier to cancel even though it was finished filming. With the Flash, they were leaning onto it heavy because Ezra Miller's he's a household name. People know him. They know him for the wrong reasons, but they know him. And his antics are a reason because a lot of people they're not going to support because of what he did. Now, I could argue separate, the artist from the art, because let's be completely honest. If everyone followed that guideline, I'm not going to support person A. They're a shitty person, even though they put out great art. Half of the stuff we're into, we would be a very dead society because a lot of artists are off their rocker. And that's why we find their art and their skills so fascinating because they, and I'm not condoning anything. I don't want people to take it out of context, but it's because some of them are willing to go into places we're not willing to go that we find, their skill set so amazing. Because I hate to say it, Ezra Mills as a person, I think he definitely needs help. I think it's great he's seeking that help. But I got to admit, his quirkiness as Flash was kind of endearing to me. It's like he knew, like, hey, I'm the young kid in this group of established superheroes that's got to, somewhat carry my weight. So I didn't mind him as Flash, separating actor from the role. But people are holding Ezra Miller's behavior against the movie overall, not realizing it doesn't just hurt Ezra Miller. If anything, it hurts everyone else more than it hurts him by not watching the movie. You're hurting all the staff that worked on it behind the scenes. You're hurting them.
I'm all for. I'm very, I guess, pro separating the art from the artist. I mean, regardless of public pushback and what people say out loud, if people really weren't able to separate the two and they actually did think that it mattered that they were associated, Subway's still around. People still listen to R. Kelly.
Yep.
Who knows with Michael Jackson, but I'm not going to deny the fact that his music is
he still holds the
amazing
title to this day, the king of pop.
Amazing. So regardless of what is true or not true there, like I personally do not give a shit.
And I mean, like, in terms of Michael Jackson, like, actually,
because the music
is lyrics of his song.
So I think we should separate the two. That does not mean that if people, do the things they do and they do terrible things, that they obviously they should
be held accountable,
get help, be held accountable, etc. But I think we can all agree, like you said, like most artists, musicians, people who paint, people who are amazing actors, whatever the art is, so many of them do have serious problems, and a lot of them have turned out to be horrible people.
Mm-hmm.
But they also, a lot of times, created some of the most amazing things.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you see them and you're like, oh, so-and-so's in this, and you go and watch it. A good example, Kevin Spacey, before he disappeared off the scene.
Man was a fucking phenomenal
actor. Killed every role he took. But, held accountable? Absolutely. But then, like, you're like, oh, nothing with Kevin Spacey and blah, blah, blah. But okay, but he killed those roles. You can't deny he was not a phenomenal actor. And I think, and I'm not saying Ezra Miller's a phenomenal actor, but he plays into the roles he's given.
He played the Flash very well. And I'm not a huge DC fan. The only stuff in DC I've ever really been into was the Teen Titans. And not, that Teen Titan Go, y'all can piss off at that shit. Okay. But the Teen Titans for what they are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I actually really like this show. It could have been a lot better, but I like the show I got, and I was really upset when they canceled it, because I did like a lot of the actors that played those roles, and Doom Patrol was not as popular, but I thought it was fucking hilarious. I don't know if you ever watched Doom Patrol.
I got like halfway through like the first season.
It was funny, man. Brendan Fraser,
man.
I would have never thought Brendan Fraser would have played a role like that. But a lot of people don't know this. Like, there's a lot of love for Brendan Fraser right now. Not to get off on the sidetrack here, but there's a lot of love for him right now. And I'm enjoying that. Like, he deserves all the love. He's a great actor. He's a great guy.
He in the canceled Batgirl movie? Wasn't he supposed to play the villain?
I don't know. I heard that from a couple of sources, but they weren't. I don't know how reliable they were. So I don't know. Like, I've heard, I don't know.
I don't know for sure that he was supposed to be the main villain in that one, and everyone was like, "Yeah, he's finally getting his, what he deserves. Like, he's making that comeback."
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but the big comeback for him was actually
The Whale.
No, it was Doom Patrol.
Actually, yeah, because he was doing Doom Patrol for a while.
Yes, he's been doing Doom Patrol for the past, like, I think it came out like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
I think it's because you didn't see his face. a lot of people didn't know.
And in episode 1, you definitely did.
Yeah.
Like half the season was like his face on and off, and then like he'd have flashbacks. But for the most part, yeah, he was, Robot Man. But he killed that role, and he came out of nowhere with that role.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser is a good.
That was his comeback role.
But yeah, they're already expecting Flash to flop because it's going against the Elementals, element, whatever that Disney movie is coming out. So they're like, families are going to go see that. Then you got Ezra Miller himself. Like, not even Michael Keaton can save, the numbers of this movie, despite being a prominent part of it, or at least promoted as a prominent part of the movie. And I think the movie looks good. I think honestly it has the potential to be the best modern DC movie to date. And it sucks because the other thing that people said is the stakes are not as high anymore because that universe is dead. They already said it's done. So the stakes of whatever happens in this movie,
when people already aren't into it like they were because of X reasons, and it's the last one, there it is,
Yeah. And they're like,
what do you expect?
They're like, well, the stakes aren't as high. It doesn't matter what he does unless they somehow incorporate an opening for being that he's a Flash and he can, time travel and create parallel universes, unless they somehow can segue a loose opening into whatever universe James Gunn plans to build. And James Gunn somehow is willing to let that be a thing, which as far as I am aware, he's like, no, we're starting completely fresh. Then they're like, yeah, there's no stakes to this Flash movie. Ezra Miller's in it, and this Disney movie's releasing. That's already 3 strikes against it before we even see it.
What do you think happened? What do you think the difference was between Marvel's success and DC's? Well, timing. I don't want to say complete failure because they've had some good movies.
Honestly, timing. I promise you,
Marvel started it first and just
because all the Marvel's movie repertoire was also pretty bad before. A lot of people just don't remember, but they used to be all over the place too, here and there with no connected universe. But DC was spitting out Superman movies and Batman movies, not connected, but we loved it, even when they were campy. And they were semi-consistent in like, you could expect another Batman movie to be rolling around. And that was the extent of it. When Marvel started to become consistent, when they brought Iron Man in and they brought back a recovering RDJ, and people knew this, like he was coming off of, alcoholism, and it was perfect because that was Tony Stark. RDJ was the perfect version of Tony Stark in real life. So he could lean into that role. He had been there. So he knew, he became Tony Stark and he leaned into that role. And then once they said, we're going to keep this going, and they started doing that, and they went with consistency where DC didn't even click with them. People might want consistency and an expanded universe and more than just Batman and Superman. That's when they did it because Marvel pulled the trigger first. If DC had done it first, if like Batman v Superman came out at the time, like a year before Iron Man, and established we're going to create a cinematic universe, DC probably would be on top because they would have had more of the support that Marvel got.
I'm going to say something that I think there's going to be people who disagree with me, but I'll die on this hill. Okay. First of all, I think it's already a little obvious that Marvel is the excitement for Marvel and the next phase and all that. It's dying out.
Yeah.
It's not to a turning point yet. And maybe we won't get there, but it's noticeable. Like people, I know I can see it in myself. Like I'm not all that excited. A new one comes out and I'm like, I don't care. If it's not the original, you know what I mean? Like we don't care about all these extras unless you can do what you did originally. And it's kind of like when you're getting like 10 movies a year, it's like, it's not as too much
it's
of a
kind
good
of like
thing
what
is
Michelle
a bad thing.
Rodriguez said. Even though she caught heat for it, she's not entirely wrong. I think because she was on an interview and they're always like on a schedule of time, you know, she's got to do promo. She summarized it in a way that it was easy to rebuttal because everyone's like, really? Look at the Fast and Furious. You guys keep releasing movies. But I think she was not just talking movies. She said, you know, movies and comics and stuff, but she's talking, granted, she's probably not a comic fan, even though she's in a movie that's based off comics. But I think she was talking about the Marvel universe as a whole. It's super saturated. Yeah. TV shows, movies. It's almost like you can guarantee another movie is coming out in the following year.
We're going now with more quantity over quality.
Yeah, and I think that's what she was talking about. She just didn't articulate her thought. It didn't come across the way it was meant to come across. So I was like, as much as it sounds like the pot calling the kettle black, she's not wrong because yes, Fast and Furious is up to 10 movies, but they're only up to 10 movies. They're not releasing one every year. They had one spinoff.
I think Marvel would not have made Spider-Man, and Marvel would not have taken some of the risks that they have to get to where they are now had it not been for Blade. And I will die on that hill.
And like I said, don't forget, a lot of people are looking at Marvel and they're like, oh, Marvel had this perfect plan. It was perfect. Marvel was so disconnected for so many years. They did not get connected until the 2000s. All the X-Men movies, the 3 original Spider-Man movies. Then they reset and went to the Amazing Spider-Man and Blade. All of their disconnected movies all over the place over years was the same as DC.
Blade 1 and 2 did phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Blade 3 didn't do so great. I liked it, but I understand like why obviously it wasn't the greatest of the 3. But Blade 1 and Blade 2 were so good. They were phenomenal. And I've read, some articles on this and just people's opinions and I have to agree that Spider-Man, it's possible that it would not have happened. The original one with Tobey Maguire would not have happened. That risk may not have happened had Blade not done so well. Because that wasn't their first Marvel movie, but it was the first one that really made an impact on the industry and on the public. And at the time, Marvel movies were absolutely niche. Like it was, they were far and few between. But the point I'm getting at to this is, they're remaking or rebooting, however they want to label it, Blade. And it's gone through a couple of script changes, a couple different directors. It's run into some issues. If they mess this up, if they don't show that they actually care about remaking Blade true to what we know Blade to be, because Blade wasn't just our generation. Even the current generation now has watched Blade. And I've talked to plenty of people that appreciate it, even people that didn't grow up with that movie. Yeah, I mean, especially the fighting scenes. I mean, the choreography was just insanely awesome. If they mess up this remake on Blade, I really think it's going to be a tipping point for Marvel downhill.
I mean, honestly, I think we're already at the tipping point of downhill.
We are, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like this is going to really just further push it over the edge.
It'll just start to slide down. Yeah.
Who is the actor? I can never remember his name. The one that they slotted for Blade.
Marshallah. I can't ever pronounce his name, but it's like Marshallah Ali.
Yeah, I don't think they could have picked a more perfect version. I think he's going to do amazing. From what I've read from like his comments and stuff, he seems like he's really wanting to nail this. But what do you think? Like, do you think if it flops and does horribly compared to the originals, that it's going to really hurt Marvel if they don't put in quality like they used to?
I mean, I want to say yes, but I also I know some people might disagree, but this will always play a factor. If it doesn't become a a critical success, it would probably get glossed over. It wouldn't kill the MCU probably the way we think it would. And it would just get shoveled under the bus. Honestly, I think the tipping point is going to happen before then. I think the Marvels, if it's not good, would be the tipping point of sending Marvel into the downhill spiral. And that's mainly because Disney's trying too hard right now to lean into trends that no one asked for.
You know, I agree with you, and I think they try to break these trends with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because that was a dark movie.
It was a dark
Disney movie. Like I remember being in that theater and like there were kids in there, and there were some scenes that I was like, when what's his name's fucking head imploded.
Yeah,
and I'm looking around, I'm like,
I took my mom to see it, and even when those things happened, and like I was like, yeesh.
I was like, oh, y'all went comic book Marvel.
Yeah. Depending on how the movie The Marvels performs will tell us the future of Marvel's potential. And I think we will see a rise. I think we'll see a flip. People are going to start giving DC a chance because we're at the time we want something fresh. And if DC can capitalize on that desire and deliver, and there's a name people know, DC might be that remedy everyone's looking for. Also, fun fact, the Marvel Universe could have been established a long time ago, but it literally got messed up because a costume didn't arrive on scene in time. Spider-Man and X-Men were supposed to be connected years ago when they were released. Hugh Jackman was supposed to have a cameo in one of the Spider-Man movies. The issue was his costume did not arrive on set in time before he had to go do filming elsewhere.
I would have thoroughly enjoyed seeing Wolverine fight Doc Ock.
I'm just glad that they're finally connecting the universe. Like the darker Marvel universe is getting a little bit connected here, like, with the Deadpool movie. So I'm totally for that. But anyway, we're out of time for this episode, guys. What are your thoughts on The Flash? If you go see it, let us know. Did you enjoy it? Are you not going to see it? What are your reasons? Do you think Michelle Rodriguez was way off the mark with her comment on comic book movies? Or do you partially agree, fully agree, or fully disagree? We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Hit up our website, osn-media.com. Go to the show's page and submit your thoughts to the GZ Chop Chop Podcast. We would love to hear from you guys. A lot of stuff covered in this episode, so give us your feedback. Anyway, we're out of here. You've been amazing. Take care of yourself and each other, and we will catch all of you wonderful people in the next podcast. Later.